Hey guys, it's me and Will here, and this is your Impending Doom spoiler.
Yeah, so we're going to show you the solution. So if you haven't tried the insanely difficult puzzle yet and want to give a chance to, you want to pause the video right now and try it yourself.
Yeah, and actually, like a lot of people gave it a really good shot. They were experimenting with it for hours in some
Yeah, yeah.
cases before they came upon the solution. So it's definitely a difficult puzzle. It's not something that you can just sit down and figure out. If you want, you can just kind of watch the first couple of steps and then try solving it from there. You don't have to solve it right from the start, but we are going to give the full solution.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to see the full solution, turn off the video now.
Yeah, but I was really impressed how quickly some people solved it. It was the community really worked well as a team, and yeah. All right. So okay. So the first couple of steps of this puzzle are fairly easy. So the general intuition is you have all this defense, so it's better to buy attack until you need defense. So following that general intuition, I'm just going to buy the only attacker you can buy, which is Doom Splitter in this puzzle. So I'm just going to buy Doom Splitters for the first couple of turns since there's a buffer of walls. So yeah, the first couple of steps are fairly easy. I think so. You need to buy an engineer here, and this isn't too tough to realize. You'll realize that you need that extra point of defense the next turn.
You could have bought it a turn earlier. Some people
Yeah,
have been
yeah.
asking us like whether or not the solution's unique, and what I've said is it's sort of, as far as we know, it's unique up to some small transpositions like buying that engineer a turn earlier, stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. So here I'm going to do a very common trick with units with lifespan, which is make them block on their last turn since they're going to die anyway. And that's exactly what I'm doing with this Doom Splitter. So I'm going through the steps fairly quickly. Once we get to the really hard steps, I'll try to explain the intuition a bit more in detail. But I'd say up until this point, there hasn't been anything extremely difficult. I'd say most of the, I mean, I'm not saying this is trivial and this is what the first thing you'll try, but I think an experienced Prismata player who's, if you play around with it going back and forth turns a bunch of times, you should realize that these steps aren't too tough.
So you wasted a damage there.
Yes, I did. I did waste a damage. I didn't, because
There's no way to get around it.
yeah, you want to kill the Tarsiers. The Tarsiers only have the Vile Tarsiers. They only have 1 health, so you'd much rather kill them. It's just so much more worth it than killing the Vile Gumbots. So
A lot of people get stuck on stuff like that because they think, oh, this can't possibly be the solution. It's so inefficient.
yeah,
But actually, no matter what you do, you end up doing something really inefficient.
yeah.
And also this turn as
Yeah,
well.
that's a good point. Okay, so I'd say this is the first turn where you got to do something very out of the blue. So this turn, the correct thing to do is to attack for 6 and kill 2 gunbots. And this seems really bad because you're attacking with a Doom Splitter that only has 1 lifespan left. And in every other turn in the puzzle, you want to be blocking with Doom Splitters with 1 lifespan left. This is the only turn in the puzzle where you want to attack. And the key reasoning is the following observation. So the way to sort of see why this, intuitively get a hint of why this is good, is your opponent's attackers, these Vile Doombots, are going to come into play, but they only have lifespan 3. So in some sense, the only thing that matters is killing their Vile Gumbots and their Vile Mechs, because these Vile Doombots, you can just use your own Doomed units to defend against those Vile Doombots, and these will sort of cancel out. So the only thing that matters in the long run is reducing their Vile Gunbot count and their Vile Mech count. So it does seem like it's really bad not defending with this Doom Splitter, but you're trading a temporary unit for their permanent units. And as you'll see later in this puzzle, that's very, very important because this is going to go on for a long time.
And no matter what, that Doom Splitter is never going to be available to defend against the Vile Doombots because it was just built 1 turn too early.
Exactly. So yeah, so I'd say this is the first really hard step, that this is the correct thing to do, and then buy a Doomed Wall here, and it works out perfectly. I think a lot of things that you could try is, last turn, instead of killing 4 Vile Tarsiers, killing 1 Vile Gumbot and 2 Vile Tarsiers and attacking for 5 again, but killing those Tarsiers earlier is just so much better that yeah, that this is the right thing to do. So I'd say that's the first extremely difficult step.
Yeah, so if you haven't got this far, this is a good spot to pause the video and try it for yourself.
Yeah. So I'd say that's the first checkpoint. That's the first really hard step. And then so now I'm going to show you the second really hard step. This is also a very non-intuitive turn. The correct thing to do in this turn is buy an engineer and store 4. And the only reason is because of numbers. It works out that the next turn, you'll actually have enough defense between this Doom wall that's going to have 1 lifespan left and this Doom splitter that's going to have 1 lifespan left. And all you ever need to do is attack for 3 anyway to kill a Vile Gumbot each turn. So actually buying any blue unit is not worth it. And this is the only turn in the mission where you want to let your blue go to waste. And I'd say this is the second major insight of the mission. It's correct this turn to let the blue go to waste. And yeah, so once again, if you want to pause the video now, I'd say this is like a second checkpoint. So those are the first 2 really hard parts, I'd say. All right, so I'm going to move on after those first 2 hard parts. So this turn you kill a Vile Gumbot, you buy a Doom Wall, and it just works out that you have just enough to defend. So this turn you buy another Doom Wall. They attack for 7. So okay, so this is all fairly standard, nothing too crazy. All right, so this is sort of the big turn where I guess your doom is impending. All their Vile Doombots are now suddenly attacking, and you can no longer afford to attack and kill Gumbots anymore. You just got to defend and try to stabilize until these Vile Doombots die. So your strategy this turn is going to be to lose almost all your units, but try to keep your drones alive, which is very important, as we'll see. So so you got to lose 1 Steel Splitter, put 3 on the Doomed Wall. And then this is sort of the next turn their Vile Doombots won't attack anymore. So alright, so now I'd say this is the third major insight required to solve the puzzle. So this is where you enter the first cycle in the puzzle. And by cycle I mean these Vile Doombots are dying, so they're going to be attacking for 6 every turn. And to absorb 6, assuming you have a Doomed Wall, you're going to put 3 on the Doomed Wall and let it heal. And then you're going to need to lose something with 3 health. So every turn you're going to be losing and the Doom Wall lives for 3 turns. So basically every 3 turns you're going to be losing 2 walls and a Doomed Wall. Now you have 6 drones, so every 3 turns you produce 18 gold, and 2 walls plus the Doom Wall only costs 17 gold. So every 3 turns you yield a profit of 1 gold. So I'll show you sort of how this works. So So I'm going to buy a wall here, and this is the turn my Doom Wall is about to die anyway, so I lose the Doomed Wall. So I'm not attacking, I'm doing nothing, and their units aren't doomed, so I'm going to just stay in the cycle for as long as I can to collect gold. So I buy a Doomed Wall, I lose a wall.
So at this point, if you had no supply limits, you would have won.
Yeah, so at this point, if you had no supply limits, it would be trivial. You would easily win, because you can just store up infinite gold, essentially. But unfortunately, you do have supply limits. And I know earlier in the puzzle, there's a couple of times where you lost a Doomed Wall, and you could have bought an engineer a turn earlier and then lost a wall and an engineer instead. But those would have all been wrong, because you would have gotten to this point and realized you didn't have exactly the correct supplies of Doomed Walls and walls left. All right, so there is one trick in the cycle, and so right now you have 6 Doom Splitters left, but the turn that you're going to lose a Doomed Wall, you can actually lose a Doom Splitter. The turn that your Doom Wall is going to die, you don't have to lose a wall. You can actually buy a Doom Splitter with the intention of losing the Doom Splitter on the next turn.
And you need to do that for supply reasons.
Exactly.
To balance the supplies.
Exactly, yeah.
You don't have enough walls.
You got to do it exactly once. If you do it more than once, you're also screwed, because then you don't have enough Doom Splitters left to kill their stuff. You need to do it exactly once. Alright, so we're going to be in the cycle until the very last possible moment. And you need to stay in the cycle until the last possible moment. So, alright. So I think this is sort of the third checkpoint. So okay, so now we've told you the 3 tricks now. The third trick is realizing the existence of this cycle. So the puzzle's still not over. We're gonna get ready to close this out, but it's still difficult. Their Vile mechs have 4 health, and it's gonna be tough to kill them. So there's still a lot of the puzzle left. So if you want to pause the video again, this is like the third checkpoint. All right, so we're essentially out of supplies. We've got 1 of each left, and this is going to be the turn that we decide to go. And what does that mean? That means we're going to use the leftover gold we stored to buy 3 engineers, and I'm going to buy no more walls and doom walls over the next couple of turns. I'm going to be buying doom splitters with the intention of killing these vile gunbots.
So just a question. You could have bought the first of those 3 engineers like 15 turns ago or something, right?
Yeah, you could have. Yeah, I think for purposes of illustration, and I think a lot of players who solved it did.
Yeah, the turn that you store 4, you don't actually have to store 4. I think when I solved it, I actually bought 2 engineers that turn.
Yeah,
and just had an engineer sitting there.
Yeah, that's totally fine. For the purposes of illustration, I'm just going to do it this way. Oh, sorry, I had to buy an engineer the last turn. All right, so I bought no more walls. I've essentially lost all my defense. So this is a bit suicidal, but you have to be suicidal here to win the mission. So I'm going to attack anyway, even though I'm going to get breached. I'm going to buy a doom wall, and I'm going to get breached. They're going to attack for 5. I'm going to lose all my stuff. This is actually correct, because as you'll see later, the most important thing is keeping your drones alive. One thing you could have done on this step is not bought the engineer. And you can actually not get breached here if you want. You can buy a doom wall and leave 2 drones back. But this actually does not work, and I'm going to show you very shortly why buying an engineer is actually better. Oops, sorry. So why is buying an engineer actually better? The key thing is drones are irreplaceable, so you got to keep your drones alive as much as possible. So we're going to get breached for 1 here, but that's fine. We're going to lose 1 drone. But the key is now we enter cycle number 2. So maybe this is the last checkpoint. So the mission is nearly solved now, but there's still one or 2 last tricks here. So yeah, if you want to pause the video, this is the last part. Okay, cool. So this is the final finish. Now, the idea is these doom splitters are never attacking again. But now that we've gotten their attack down to 4, as long as we have the steel splitter left, we only need to lose 2 engineers a turn to defend their attack. And guess what? We've got 5 drones. So if we make 2 engineers a turn, we do have to make them the turn before, but we are actually making a profit of 1 gold a turn. And we're going to exhaust our engineer supply to store up as much gold as possible for the final finish. So yeah, these doom splitters are useless. So I'm just going to let them all die. And we're going to...
So again, you're in a cycle.
Exactly.
Where if you had infinite supplies, you would be guaranteed a victory.
Right. So this is cycle number 2. All right. So you can actually leave 2 engineers. I think the puzzle is solvable with 2 engineers left in the supply.
I think somebody said you could leave 3. I'm not sure.
Really? I had no idea you could leave 3. That's pretty sweet. I didn't know that. Okay. So now and a lot of people were wondering, why is Blast Forge in the supply? So it's actually very important. You got to buy a Blast Forge here. Because if you buy the remaining 3 Doom Splitters over 3 different turns, the intersection of the turns they can attack is only going to be 3. And you won't have enough firepower to finish off the Vile mechs. So you actually need to, at some point, buy 2 Doom Splitters on the same turn to actually win. So in preparation for that, I'm going to buy a Blast Forge now.
Yeah, there were people asking, like, is Blast Forge a red herring? Is it a joke?
No, it's not.
It's actually part of the solution.
Yeah. So
as crazy as that seems.
Yeah, here you just got to leave your drones back.
So you don't need to leave all 3 drones there, right?
Yeah, you don't
because
need to.
If you just left 1.
Yeah, as long as
they wouldn't be able to reach anything.
Exactly. Yeah, as long as the Lunarch HQ stays alive. And this was sort of like a gimmick we added just for the purposes of, I didn't want to deal with a case where like the AI would breach something wrong and someone would get an extraneous solution because the AI breached something wrong. So that was the main point of this, so that the computer actually had no decisions. But yeah, it's over now. And on the very last turn, you kill the very last Vile mech and you beat Impending Doom.
Yeah, and it does actually send us an email. which I think we're going to turn off soon,
Yeah.
especially once we post this video. We'll probably get 100 of them. But yeah, that's the solution. And as far as we know, it's unique up to like small differences in buying times of engineers and stuff like that. Like of all the solutions that we've been sent, Will checked over them all, and they're all pretty much that solution. I don't know how to necessarily prove that that's the only solution, but as far as we know, it's the only solution. If anybody finds another solution, that'd be really interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess that's all for today. If you guys like Impending Doom, we may try doing stuff like this in the future, or having hard challenges for the community. I'm not really sure when the next one will be, but it seemed that people liked it, so.
All right, cool. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys.
All right, take care.